think I'm not going to be using my late pick.
You're doing my heavy pick.
Yeah, it's A minor. Yeah. This is a G sharp. What do you call harmonic minor?
Yeah, got it.
All right, theory. Woohoo. Okay. Where's working when you need him, right, Max? Yeah, that's it. That's it. Okay. Hi, doll. How are you? Yeah, see if we can do the diner. See if we can do the diner. Did we hear you?
Oh, yeah.
What's the matter there? Yes.
Hello, Janie. It's Hyla.
Oh!
Yes. I'm sorry. So sorry. That's all right. Our granddaughter is having her bat mitzvah tonight and tomorrow.
Oh, congratulations. Oh, I'm so glad we're here.
Yes.
That's my buddy.
It was cutting it close.
Well, most of the band is actually away because
There's a wedding somewhere.
wedding, and most of the people
From the original temple that are part of that.
anyhow, it'll be good. Yeah, it's a small group.
Are you going to play tomorrow?
No.
No.
Sorry.
I would love the rest of the family to hear you.
That's all right.
Are we ready to roll this Shabbat into being? What do we think, friends? Yes, yes? All right.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Nearly there.
That was nice, Larry.
I'll do my intro in a bit. For now, we're going to start on page 24 with the singing of Shalom Aleichem.
That's right. Shalom Aleichem, Melech Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem Leshalom, Boachem Leshalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamelachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharer, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Shalom Aleichem.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So before we move formally into our service, just a few announcements. The first is to make sure that everyone's grabbed their prayer book on their way in. If you haven't, you can grab it as you walk in. We've got large print prayer books on the right and hearing assisted devices through the office right on the right as you walk in as well. Leanne Bass is our usher, and should you need anything tonight, she can point you in that direction. Bathrooms are outside to the right, though all gender and handicap accessible bathrooms are through the office toward the back. If for some reason tonight we need an emergency exit, of course there's the exit we came in, but notice there's an exit here as well as multiple exits in the back as well. If for some reason we lose power tonight, because that's been happening a lot in the area because of the heat, we will continue with services a cappella. We'll just automatically de facto be saying goodbye to our friends who are online. So if you lose our feed, you can log off. We're probably not going to try to come back on. And if for some reason tonight you feel lost, you're not sure where we are in the prayer book or on the page, don't be shy about turning to someone around you and asking where we are and seeing if they can help direct you to where you need to go. That way we can all be on the same page, both literally and figuratively. So tonight, as we usher in Shabbat, in what is probably the latest Shabbat start of the year, the sun is very much in the sky. And I remind people each year about this, that there are certain things that we cannot control, right? We cannot, for example, control when a holiday ends. It ends when the sun is down and there are 3 stars in the sky. But we actually do have a degree of control over certain pieces of time. And you are allowed to begin holidays and begin Shabbat a little bit early. And so technically, from the time when you light these candles, it is officially Shabbat. And so we have a degree of control over the universe. We're not necessarily bound to that of the sun, but rather we are able to, as human beings, set the course of the way that the universe works, which is a pretty extraordinary thing. And so in honor of setting Shabbat started, we're going to call Mira up to be joined by her family as she and her family prepare to light our candles and bless our wine. We're on page 2 and 3.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaro lema'aseh bereishit כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי
בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים לשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון נחלתנו.
ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. Chaim.
Great.
Well done. Yishar kochech. Shabbat shalom.
Off to a great start. So we're going to move now, page 10, Yedid Nefesh. Forward now, page 20, L'chadodi.
La
We remain standing, page 28.
Barechu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai
Baruch Adonai,
hamevorach.
Hamevorach,
Leolam
Leolam,
Vaed.
We can turn our attention to the screen. The chokhmah and wisdom, God skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time, changes the season, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. Bechokhmah.
Bichokhmah poteach, bichokhmah poteach, bichokhmah poteach she'arim. Join us.
Bechokhmah,
Poteach, bichokhmah poteach, bichokhmah poteach she'arim. Before the wind I weep, before the sun I faint. I lose my strength, I lose my strength. Bichokhmah poteach, bichokhmah poteach, bichokhmah poteach she'arim. Vanquished, vanquished by a star, I go to my knees. I lose my strength, I lose my strength. Bichokhmah poteach, bichokhmah poteach, bichokhmah poteach she'arim. Before the song of a bird, before the breath of spring or fall, I am lost to nothing at all. Bichokhmah poteach, bichokhmah poteach, bichokhmah poteach she'arim. Bichokhmah, bichokhmah poteach, bichokhmah poteach, bichokhmah poteach she'arim. Before the miracles, the ones we see and the ones we do not, Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim.
page 34.
Torah
32. Israel. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Ahavta et Adonai. Page 36. B'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'am b'shivtecha b'veitecha ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page 40. Reading on page 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Page 42 and the screen.
Adonai, Eloheinu, Shalom. someday it'll all turn around because all my life I've been waiting for,
praying
for the
people to say that
we don't wanna fight, we don't wanna fight no more, and our children will play one day.
one day,
סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Page 44, Yismachu. Rise together, page 46, and after this opening meditation, we move in silence through page 62, either with the traditional words on the page or the words of our hearts.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha.
invite everyone to take one more breath in and out with intention that this should be an opening to prayerfulness. There's always at least one more prayer inside of you. You can let it be about peace, that it may find each of us, that it may find all of Israel, that it may find every person seeking to be in peace with themselves and with one another. We turn to page 60. We lift our voices together.
As we do each week, we add now in our service a special prayer for the state of Israel, a prayer penned by rabbinical student Hannah Ellenson that speaks about all the complexities of the conflict. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, we ask that you bless the state of Israel and all of Israel's inhabitants. Makor Chaim, source of life, bless and strengthen those who defend the land and ensure their safe and speedy return. Protect them and guide them. Kadosh Baruch Hu, Holy and Blessed One, show Israel's leaders your paths so they may act with wisdom, courage, and dedication, and that they may be unwavering in their pursuit of peace. Strengthen their hearts, but keep their hearts from hardening. Adonai Poked, God who remembers, there are more than 100 people currently being held in Gaza who are thought to be alive, including Oded Lipschutz, 83, Guy Gilboa Dalal, 22, Eviatar David, 23, Nama Levi, 19, Bipin Joshi, 23, Eden Alexander, 19, Nathing Pong Pinta, 35, Shuri Bibas, 32, Yarden Bibas, 34, and their sons Ariel, 4, and Kafir, 1. Matira Surim, freer of captives, return all those who are kidnapped safe and sound to their homes, without the spilling of more innocent blood, without any more harm being tarnished by horrific acts. Ba'al HaRachamim, master of compassion, help us to hold the humanity and the heartache of the Jewish people, all of the residents of the state of Israel, while also holding the humanity and the dignity of the Palestinian people. As we are made in your image, remind us of your ways. Spread over us a shelter of peace and fulfill the vision of your prophets. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. They shall never again know war.
So we go from the personal prayer that we have silently to a little more global, to the Middle East. And then we go to as wide as we can go for those that are near of healing, because wherever they may be, they need some assistance from us. If you turn to page 253, and when it's time, you'll know, please join me. Mi sheberach avotenu v'imotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech et hakolim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say amen. And we'll see a listing, but please join me on 253.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So this morning, I got a chance to hear from a 13-year-old who spoke about this week's Torah portion in a different way, by the way, than Mira is going to speak about it so wonderfully tomorrow. Her name's Lucy Auerbach, and she was giving a speech about the different ways that our tradition deals with people who have critiques, who are complaining. And one of the things that I want to talk about tonight is an insight that she gave and build off that and talk a little bit about an insight that I gained as I've been reflecting on her point. One of the things that Lucy spoke about was the fact that in this week's portion, we have any number of complaints that happen. And in fact, by the way, if you were to look at the whole book of Numbers, the book of Numbers can be called the book of kvetching, the book of complaining. It happens over and over and over again. And in fact, in this week's portion, we have 3 major complaints. 2 of them end up not being productive and 1 does. And Lucy asked this question, which is ultimately she compared 2 of the complaints, and she asked, why is one of them not productive and the other one was? The complaints surround 3 things in this week's Torah portion. The first one, which works, is a complaint around an unfair law that a group of men feel that Moses should change. After wandering in the desert, after leaving Egypt for a year, Moses puts down for the people this idea that every year you're supposed to sacrifice a lamb, a Paschal lamb, in honor of the fact that Passover is coming up. And that's supposed to be the way, ultimately, in purity, you're supposed to do this. Now, the impurity piece is the part that gets at people. Because a group of men realize that they're not pure and Passover is coming up. In Judaism, if you touch a dead body, you are not pure. And when might you do that? If you have to bury a loved one. And so the men go to Moses and they say to themselves, we are impure. We just buried our loved one. How is it that we are now not able to enjoy Passover, to actually offer the sacrifice that we are commanded to do, just because we did a mitzvah of livayat hamet, of taking care of someone who has died? And Moses thinks about it, and he realizes that they're right. And the fact that they came to him and they asked him the very day that they found out what was wrong leads Moses to bring the problem to God, who then says, you know what? Their question is fair. What we're going to do is we're going to create an idea which is called Pesach Sheni. If on Passover you happen to be impure, exactly a month later, you're allowed to offer that sacrifice, because ostensibly you've purified yourself by then. And so you get a makeup date. You get a rain date for Passover. Now this works in a very different way than some of the other complaints. In this week's portion, for example, as Mira is going to talk about tomorrow, a group of people get together and start kvetching. They start complaining about the fact that they hate the taste of manna. They just want the food that they used to eat in Passover the year prior, before they had left. And by the way, God gives them food. God gives them meat to eat. He sends quail over. But God ultimately punishes them as well. God isn't happy with their complaining. And then at the end of the portion, Moses gets a complaint from his siblings, from Miriam and Aaron. First, about the woman that he chooses to marry. But the other, which feels like it should have more substance, is, God, how come you only talk through Moses? We're Moses' siblings. Shouldn't you talk directly and through us as well? And by the way, God strikes Miriam with leprosy for that one. So, what is going on here? The answer, by the way, is that the other two were complaints without specificity, especially the complaint with the people who were upset about the fact that they didn't get to eat the food that they used to eat in Egypt. They were the rabble. They were the protesters going out without the specific demands, just with the complaints. And that wasn't something that God wanted to see. Now, I have just written a book, and it'll come out in December, which is ultimately about the fact that 1,000 years after these stories took place, our ancient rabbis, in the shadow of the destroyed temple, create a way of thinking that one can only call pragmatic. Right? If you look at the way Jewish law works, halacha works, it is incredibly pragmatic, incredibly calculating, incredibly political. And the myth that surrounds the creation of Rabbinic Judaism, the title of my book, which is called Yochanan's Gamble, deals with a rabbi whose name is Yochanan ben Zakkai, who, as the temple is being sieged by the Romans, sneaks out, ends up in an audience with Vespasian, who is the emperor, and in that moment says to Vespasian, I believe you will one day become the emperor. Vespasian, by the way, is only the governor at the time. Vespasian hears this, and no sooner does this happen than someone runs in and says, guess what? The emperor is dead. You are now the new emperor. And Vespasian, on his way out the door, now the emperor, looks at Yochanan and says to Yochanan, like, how can I thank you? Ask me for something and I'll give it to you. And Yochanan thinks about it, and he asks him for a little plot of land in a place called Yavne to restart Judaism, and 2 rabbis to get saved from Jerusalem. Now, later generations of rabbis are perplexed, and they say to themselves, well, I don't understand. Like, this guy had an audience with the emperor. Couldn't he have asked that the emperor stop the siege on Jerusalem? And there's a postscript by an anonymous voice in the Talmud that essentially says, well, he asked for the thing he knew he could get, rather than asking for the thing that he might not get, and thus he would have squandered his ask. And that thoughtful, pragmatic way of thinking is part and parcel of the way Jewish law works from then forward. Yochanan, who's the father of Rabbinic Judaism, lays the groundwork for the way Jews will think for the next 2,000 years, pragmatically, politically, and practically. But one thing that I didn't realize until this morning in hearing the students speak is that ultimately I haven't given the Bible enough credit for its own kind of pragmatism. I assumed that the clock started on pragmatic thinking with Yochanan. But ultimately, if you look at the Bible itself, even though the moral heroes of the Bible are not always the pragmatic people, it's the prophets who stand up on mountaintops, on soapboxes, and who scream at the powers that be, the real change happens because people work incrementally, because people ask for things in careful, political, timely manners. The two most significant changes that happen in the whole of Jewish law in the Bible itself happen because polite people go to Moses with a specific problem instead of a broad complaint and say, can you help me figure this thing out? Can you help me crack this nut? The first being those men who come and say, we just buried our loved one, how are we going to do Passover? And the second being 5 daughters of a man named Zelophehad that we'll read about in a few weeks, who show up at Moses' doorstep and say, our father died without any male heirs. Our cousins are going to get his land. We are his daughters. What can you do? Notice they didn't show up and say, the plight of women is not good, change something. Although that would have been a valid critique, to move into the incremental, to be practical and pragmatic, to ask for the things that you may get, to be specific, to be timely, to know the power structures, not just what to ask for, but how to ask for, is ultimately the way that change is inherently affected throughout our tradition. It begins at the Bible, and it moves forward from there. And in our day and age, we are particularly bad at that very thing. We are prophetic. We stand on soapboxes and scream at people, and it doesn't really matter whether they hear us or not. But change happens in small bursts. There are no huge paradigm shifts in morality as much as we want it to be. Rather, our future gets written step by step, change by change, bill by bill, as we claw our way to a better future. And so I want to challenge all of us, when we want to have broadband critiques, when we want to just complain, when we want to just kvetch, be timely, be specific, be practical. Find a thing that will just move the needle a little bit. Because as long as the needle is moving, it is moving in the right direction. Don't be so worried about being perfect that you're completely ineffective. Live in the shadow. Step in the footsteps. Stand on the shoulders of those daughters of Zelophehad and of those men who buried their loved one in this week's Torah portion. And take those small steps toward the future. Collectively, years from now, you look back just to see how far you've gone. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to turn to page 282 as we rise for Elena.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'goralenu kechol hamonam. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
seated together. Our thoughts now turn to those who we've loved and who we've lost as we turn to page 294. As I call your loved one's name, I'll invite you to rise, honoring their memory. This Shabbat, we recall the following individuals: Otto August, Max Bass, Rebecca Beckerman, Morton Belove, Sheldon Burke, Diane Berkowitz, Louis Berman, Alfred Berman, Florence Berner, Mendel Bloom, Gabriel Friedman, Helene Sachs Glantz, Beverly Gussoff, Edith Hirsch, Aida Itindola, Ray Kaplan, Thomas Carger, Alan Kimmel, Vicky Krebs, Miriam Kushner, Max Laufer, Rosalind Levin, Sarah Mabey, Max Moskowitz, Gertrude Reback, Pat Riley, Etta Shapiro, Rose Schwartz, Ann Spiegel, Harry Silver, Rosetta, Margarita Lima Souza, Charles Strimpel, Hyman Wolitz, Marilyn Yeshlin, and Nathan Zeisel. And those who are in their Shiva and Shloshim periods of mourning: Martin Simons, husband of Leanne Fisher, Paula Goldstein, mother of Cora Vest, Bernard David Shepin, father of Eldad Shepin, Lucy Morgan, Leslie Kaplan, father of Douglas Kaplan, and Jerome Bengis, stepfather of Deborah Feinberg. In addition to those names mentioned, I'll invite anyone who is in their one-year period of mourning or who has a yard site who may not have been on this list to please rise and share their name. We join together. We rise. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah. B'yamad divrach yurtei b'yamech mochutei. V'chayachon v'yamachon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. B'hagala u'v'yizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah m'varach le'olam olmei amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitnormam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran b'yama v'imru amen. Yehei shlam araba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'kol Yisrael v'imru. Please be seated. So before we finish, just a few announcements. So services tomorrow are going to be 10 a.m. as we welcome Mira up to the Bima as she becomes formally Bat Mitzvah. We got Torah study at 8:30 as well. In addition to that, summer services are beginning soon. They're clergy-led for just one more week, and then in July and August, they become lay-led. We have like a couple spots for Saturday morning Divrei Torah, some spots for Torah reading if you want. If you have ever wanted to read Torah, lead services, be a teacher, just let us know, and we'll figure out a way to fit you in over the summer. We would love to have you participate. I've been announcing this over the past few weeks, but my favorite author is coming to Montclair and coming here. His name is Daniel Silva. He writes Israeli spy novels. It's the only book that I buy the day it comes out and reads it. And he's on novel number 24 of the series. So I hope that you can join us. If you were planning on coming and you haven't registered yet, I'm getting a little pressure from the publisher that the numbers right now are not as high as they should be 2 weeks out. I know of dozens of people who told me they're coming, and I said to them, we're a synagogue that always just registers 5 days before the event. And they said, well, it would be good if you really tried to get people to do it so it would put us at ease. If you're planning on coming, don't wait till the end. Please register sooner than later so that I can smile at them and say, yes,
Rabbi.
See. So I think that's about it, Cantor. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, just that I will be heading off to Tbilisi, Georgia to help our sibling congregation with a few of our Ner Tamid family and with our group from London and from Haifa, all progressive communities. We're joining together for a whole week of peace building and of celebrating this progressive Jewish community. So stay tuned. I am sure, God willing, we'll have lots of wonderful, beautiful stories of communities fighting hatred with beauty, which is the whole message of the Peace Synagogue and Dor Lador. Rabbi's over there joining the band on our last tune. Malachi, are you joining me on Shaker or what? What's happening? No? All right, you're in a mood. I got it. I am sometimes in a mood. We're going to end with words of hope. Oseh shalom bimromav. Join us. Oseh shalom bimromav. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Come have a cookie. And